Sometimes the future kind of sneaks up on you, and other times it just explodes. Well, in October 2025, over just 3 days, the entire world of artificial intelligence got a complete makeover. We saw a series of back-to-back bombshells from the absolute titans of tech, OpenAI, Google, you name it. So let's dive into this insane 72-hour whirlwind and figure out what it all means for us.
Look, what we all witnessed was not just another product launch. No way. It was more like a Cambrian explosion for AI. We're talking about a massive fundamental shift in what AI can do, how it does it, and who's in control of it. And it all went down in less time than a long weekend.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is wild. It all kicked off on October 7th with OpenAI's Big Dev Day. And before anyone could even catch their breath, Google DeepMind fired right back. Then, the hardware makers jumped in on the action. Then, Elon Musk's xAI enters the fray. And all of this was happening while major geopolitical moves were being made in the background. It was just relentless.
All right, so let's break this whole thing down. It really all started with a company that's pretty much been at the center of this AI storm from the beginning. OpenAI got up on stage, and they didn't just announce a little update. They dropped a whole new blueprint for the future.
Their announcements were a total quadruple threat. First up, GPT-5 Pro, with way better reasoning and this thing called multimodal input, which is just a fancy way of saying it can understand text, images, audio, and video all at the same time. Then, they showed off Sora 2, a jaw-dropping update that creates these stunning 4K videos up to a minute long. They also dropped a smaller, faster voice AI, making real-time spoken chats with AI way more accessible. And here's the kicker. They wrapped it all up in a new Apps SDK, a software development kit, which is basically a toolkit that lets any developer plug all this crazy power into their own apps, super easily.
And this quote from their CEO, Sam Altman, really says it all. This wasn't just a minor upgrade, this was OpenAI basically declaring that they see themselves as the foundation for the next generation of all software, not just AI apps. That is a huge, huge statement.
Of course, the rest of the industry wasn't just going to sit back and applaud. The response was immediate, it was powerful, and it turned this whole thing into a direct, head-to-head clash of the tech titans.
So less than 24 hours later, Google DeepMind came out swinging. But what's super interesting here is they didn't just try to one-up OpenAI on the same stuff. Nope. They picked a totally different battlefield. AI that doesn't just create things, but AI that actually does things.
They pulled the curtain back on two incredible new tools. First, CodeMender, an AI agent that can just go through code by itself, find security bugs, and then write and test the fixes on its own. Insane. And then there was Gemini 2.5, a model that can literally use a computer just like you and me. We're talking navigating websites, clicking on buttons, filling out forms. This is a massive leap towards truly independent AI agents, a real digital helper that can just get stuff done for you.
And just as we were all trying to process Google's big move, a third heavyweight jumps into the ring. Elon Musk's company, xAI, which had been kind of quiet, suddenly made a huge splash, and they went right after the creative space, specifically high-end video.
And this slide really nails the difference in their thinking. On the one hand, you have OpenAI's Sora 2. It's polished, professional, 4K, and built to plug right into business software. But then you have xAI's Imagen V0.9, which is all about raw power. 8K resolution, clips up to 2 minutes long, movie-level quality, and, this is key, it has open-source parts to get a whole community of developers excited. It's like OpenAI is building a beautiful walled garden, while xAI is trying to start a wildfire.
But look, this explosion of new tech wasn't happening in some corporate bubble. These company rivalries are just one piece of a much bigger story. The AI arms race has become a central part of a global power struggle between entire countries. And that really forces us all to ask a huge question. As this technology gets more and more powerful, how do we even think about it? Is it a tool for everyone to share and make progress, or is it a weapon in a new kind of global conflict?
This conflict is causing some serious cracks, even inside the AI labs themselves. Over at Anthropic, a top researcher actually quit, protesting the company's policy against working with anyone in China. They basically said it was putting US politics ahead of global safety and progress, which just shows you how tense things are getting.
And while there were divisions popping up in the US, Europe was doing the opposite. On that same day, the EU announced this, a €1.1 billion fund to create what they call AI sovereignty. They're building their own systems from the ground up so they don't have to rely on American tech giants.
Now, all of these amazing new models,
From GPT-5 to Gemini 2.5, they all have one thing in common. They are incredibly hungry for power. And that brings us to the invisible war being fought over the actual hardware that makes all of this magic happen.
So think of it like this. You've got the AI models themselves. Those are the brains. But those brains need brawn to do any work, and that brawn comes from super powerful GPUs. And then those GPUs have to be physically built somewhere, in a super high-tech factory, the Forge. The race for AI dominance is being fought on all three of these levels.
And this brings us to another huge piece of news from that 72-hour window. OpenAI, in a clear move to lock down its brawn, signed a massive deal with AMD for GPUs. We're talking enough computing power to rival a small nuclear plant. This is a huge deal because it means they're not just relying on NVIDIA anymore, and it shows they're getting ready for a mind-boggling need for more computer power. And you can see the ripple effect on the Forge right here. TSMC, the company that builds most of the world's best chips, saw its revenue jump by 30% in just 1 year. That growth is almost entirely because of the demand for AI. The numbers are just staggering, and it shows how this AI boom is literally reshaping the entire global economy. So after those 3 absolutely insane days, the world just looked different. This wasn't just a bunch of press releases. It was the start of a whole new era. Let's take a look at what our new AI reality actually feels like.
First off, there's this really interesting counterargument popping up. While all the giants are building these massive city-sized models, a researcher over at Samsung showed that you don't actually need all that scale for incredible results. They made a tiny model that can outperform the big guys on reasoning tasks. So the point is, the future might be more about efficiency, not just brute force.
The whole way we interact with AI is about to change too. The legendary designer Jony Ive is working with OpenAI on what they call peaceful AI hardware, with no screens. Think about devices that just blend into your life, that whisper suggestions instead of screaming for your attention on a glowing rectangle. It's a total rethink of how humans and computers connect.
So let's put it all together. What does this new world actually look like? Well, right now, AI agents are automating 80% of customer service for some companies. We can now generate video that looks like it's from a movie just by typing a sentence. Nations are in a flat-out race for their own AI. And with agents that can use our apps and hardware that disappears, the very idea of what a computer even is changing right in front of us. All of that happened in just 72 hours. It leaves you with one kind of terrifying but also incredibly exciting question. If this is what can happen in just 3 days, what on earth is going to happen in the next 3? The pace of this change is unlike anything we have ever seen.